In 2022, we celebrate 130 years of HBCU football. On December 27th, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the 2022 season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag HBCU130. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
You got it locked to the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. For today, Friday, September 2nd, I'm Donal Ware. Guess what? It's Friday! Of course, on Fridays, we preview the HBCU National Game of the Week. And the game is going to take place in Miami Gardens, Florida, between Jackson State and Florida A&M. And interestingly enough, this year, we're not talking about, or not at the forefront is the actual matchup between these two heavyweight football teams. You're talking about this game, just like last year's game. Last year's game was the determining game in terms of who won the SWAC's Eastern Division. Of course, Jackson State won this game 7-6, went on to win the SWAC championship. Also, meanwhile, as you look at Florida A&M was left out of the SWAC championship game, but did receive an at-large berth to the FCS playoffs. The two storylines here, you can't talk about the game without talking about these two things, and not particularly in this order. I think from a humanities standpoint, we'll say the first thing is the Jackson water crisis. There's a water crisis in Jackson, and where the residents can't even get water to drink, to bathe, etc. You know, it's a very unfortunate situation. What Jackson State and head coach Deion Sanders have done is be able to get those players into better accommodations where they can shower, drink, eat, etc. So they're prepared. Jackson State is prepared. There's no question about that, but you have this water crisis. And, you know, we got to ask this question, right? You have Jackson, Mississippi, which is has a 79% Black population. The last water crisis, at least that either got the most national news, I think, was in Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan has something like a 56% Black population. So you have to ask yourself, or the question needs to be asked, why are we having these issues in terms of water problems in cities where you have a high Black population? That needs to be addressed. The second thing is Florida A&M and its 26 players that are ineligible. Now, as of 7 o'clock, so we're recording this at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, or 7:02 to be exact, Eastern time on Thursday evening, no players, none of the 26 players that were ineligible. And for those that don't know, Florida A&M played a Power 5 school in UNC last week, lost that football game, a valiant effort, but is missing 26 players, including only having 8 offensive linemen to travel with. 2 of those offensive linemen got hurt. Now, I thought I saw in this game where Jackson State, even though the game is in Miami Gardens, Florida, and it's the Orange Blossom Classic, I thought I saw where Jackson State is the home team. I don't know how that works. When you're at home, you can dress out more players than when you're on the road. I mean, when you're on the road, I think it's like 55 players or something like that. You could dress more out when you're at home. So, I mean, those are some decisions. And listen, even you have really, you think about it. So we have Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday. So you have almost 72 hours to get players cleared. Florida A&M has 72 hours to get players cleared. In his Monday press conference, head coach Willie Simmons talked about the fact that even last week, Florida A&M was able to put one of its players on a plane to be able to play in that game. And, again, I've got to reiterate this. It's a couple of factors here with this whole debacle. Really, number one, Florida A&M just doesn't have it together. It's very unfortunate that players have been misadvised. So when we say ineligible, we don't mean bad grades. We mean per se. We mean that players aren't certified. So you are ineligible. In essence, you are ineligible, but they weren't certified to be able to play in this football game. They were advised of some classes to take and did not, for whatever reason, those classes were passed, but they weren't the classes they need. All of that. And so you have this situation. It's a shame for Florida A&M, but even more so, I think if you're, the NCAA, you have to look at this situation. Don't punish the student athlete. If you're listen, NCAA, don't punish the student athlete. The student athlete didn't have anything to do with this. My understanding, however, is that the Florida A&M is working with the NCAA. Also, SWAC officials have come in to work with Florida A&M as well to try to get some players certified. But again, 26 players were not certified as of last Sunday. And here Thursday at now 7:05 p.m. Eastern, still no players are certified. When this, of course, Friday, right? We'll see if that changes. But again, you have up until game time on Sunday for players to be certified. This presents a challenge, no question about it. It presents a bit of a challenge for Florida A&M in so many respects. Number one, you don't have one of the best players in college football in Isaiah Land, at least as we stand right now. Okay, wreaks havoc all over the field. You don't have, if you're Florida A&M, a B.J. Bowler, defensive back. Both of those guys, HBCU All-Americans. You have neither one of those guys. How many offensive linemen do you now have? Do you now have to play true freshmen? Now, I think one of the things is, and I don't know. I can tell you this. I know Willie Simmons and his staff is going to be prepared for this football game, but a lot has been taken away. You look at this, a lot of the preparation maybe, and he's got a really good staff, but Willie Simmons has had to address a lot of this through, I don't think, any fault of his own. When you have staff, and in this case, a compliance person, an athletics director, et cetera, they are supposed to make sure that student athletes are ready to go and certified, not the football coach. I'm sure the football coach preaches to the guys, make sure you're going to class. They probably even make sure that the guys are going to class in some instances, okay? But back to football on the field. They have to get creative. Maybe you have to have some defensive linemen move over to offensive line, especially if you have freshmen or players that aren't truly ready to play, okay? You look at Musa last week. He was solid. I thought he was solid against North Carolina. He threw a couple of touchdowns and held Florida A&M close. Florida A&M had some opportunities there, did not capitalize on some of those opportunities. So, but that offensive line is going to be big. Will Florida A&M be able to run the football? I think will Musa be able to have some success? Because when you look at that Jackson State defense, and you're talking about the likes of an Aubrey Miller or Shiloh Sanders or Travis Hunter, that is a daunting task for any quarterback. But I think Musa can be up to the task. But he's got to have some kind of offensive line that can, A, protect him, but also can open up holes for that Florida A&M running game. He's going to need some help in the running game, no question about that. when I look at Jackson State, weapons all over the place. I talked about a couple of those guys on the defensive side of the football. I mean, when you look at it offensively, I mean, it's Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback. He's absolutely phenomenal. Completed close to 70% of his passes as a true freshman. I mean, I just don't. And he's had a whole year under his belt. In this game last year, it was his first collegiate game. It was a big time atmosphere. It was against a tough opponent. I think he may have scored the only touchdown in the game. I think it was on a run. So, his mindset is a little bit different and more advanced last year than it was at this year than it was at the same time last year, having gone through the battles of playing college football and through a SWAC season and really going against a tough South Carolina State defense as well. So he's going to be ready to rock and roll that offensive line. It's going to be very, very solid for Jackson State. He's got plethora of receivers to throw the football to. So, I think Jackson State is more prepared for this football game. Now, if Florida A&M had an Isaiah Land or had a BJ Bowler or had its prime offensive lineman, would it be a little different? I think that is the case. And we'll see. I mean, I'm going to predict this game as we stand right now. Okay, I can't go on what may be and will Florida A&M get some players certified. I mean, the university has put itself really in this predicament. So I will say this: I think Florida A&M is undermanned. I think Musa can get some things done for Florida A&M from the quarterback position. But man, it's going to be tough against a talented Jackson State team. I think the advantage that the Rattlers have is a couple. It played a valiant game, and all things considered, a pretty solid football game against North Carolina on last week. 2, it has a game under its belt. I think that is an advantage for Florida A&M, where Jackson State hasn't played a game. But I think the cards, to me, the deck is stacked too much against Florida A&M in terms of where we stand right now, not having big-time players, especially on the defensive side of the football. Where's the offensive line going to look? And then if I look at Jackson State, they've got a pretty stout defense, and that offense is pretty good, led by Shedeur Sanders. I can't really give you a score, but I think that Jackson State wins this football game, the Orange Blossom Classic in Miami Gardens against Florida A&M. Jackson State with the victory, and thus at that moment will control, in essence, its own destiny in terms. I mean, all the other schools could. I mean, the bottom line is, of course, Jackson State controls its own destiny, as does all the other teams that are in the Eastern Division. But I guess my point is, Florida A&M then at that point does not control its own destiny. Your thoughts? You can always hit us up on Twitter at BOXTOROW, BOXTOROW, or on Facebook, BOX2ROW. So that's our big time game. We've got a great, you've got some really good games. We had some games on Thursday. We've got some games Saturday. We've got some games on Sunday. You can take a look at our scoreboard on our website at BOXTOROW.com to get the full rundown of the HBCU schedule for week 1. Don't forget to tell a couple of friends about the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, where, of course, if you're watching us, you can watch us on our YouTube page. You can also listen on our website at BOXTOROW.com. And you can also listen at iHeartMedia.com and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen, it's Labor Day weekend. I know I'm going to have a great weekend. I'm going to be in Charlotte for that Aggie Eagle Classic between North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central. So I'm looking forward to that. But the weekend's going to be great. I got food lined up, getting on the grill, on Sunday, smoking a pork butt on Monday, right? So we're going to do some oysters, shuck some oysters, and do some oyster Rockefeller on the grill as well. So I'm looking forward to this weekend. I can't really say it's a long weekend because on Monday, I'm going to be right back with you on Monday. And then, of course, we have the HBCU media poll that's going to be released, as well as the HBCU FCS coaches poll as well. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk with you on Monday.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at BOXTOROW.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.